Golic and Smetty here.
How hard will it be to get home from this event?
Welcome to the post-Super Bowl podcast of Golic and Smetty. I'm Mike Golic Sr. She's Jess Smetana. And Jess, we made it. We made it through the week. We made it through the media row at the convention center, and you hanging out the waste management as well, and all the parties in between, all the way to the Super Bowl. The game will be the last thing we talk about, but boy, what a week, huh?
What a week indeed. Mike, I can't wait to hear about your experience being on the sideline at the game, but I have to say, I think my highlight of the week, it was not doing the show with you in person, although that was really fun.
Great. Thanks for the setup there.
Hey, I said it was really fun. It was not going out to dinner with Gojo and Brandon, which was also really fun. We went to dinner twice.
Yes, you did.
We ate really well last week.
You guys did.
Scottsdale and Arizona for all the good food.
I must have lost my invite to that dinner, but that's okay.
Oh, please. Yeah. Please. Well, we ordered this thing of queso that honestly got devoured in 2 minutes. I can't even imagine what would happen if you were there. But it was neither of those things, Mike. It was the Waste Management Open at TPC Scottsdale. I know you didn't get a chance to make it up there last week, but oh my gosh, that was a bucket list sports event for me, and I had so much fun there. So we'll talk about all of that today. Yeah,
so we again went there Tuesday, me, Jess, and Mike, and we were team DraftKings, and we went against team PGA Tour 2K in like a video game golf off showdown. And we put the tease video out, so that's been out there, and the actual competition video will follow. But that's kind of how our week started. That was on Tuesday. Obviously, we were here Monday on, but that was fun. But unfortunately, that was the only time I got to Waste Management. I really thought, because Super Bowl is always the same weekend as Waste Management, so I've never been able to go. I've always been at the Super Bowl. I thought, okay, this is great. I'll be able to go to some Waste Management while still covering the Super Bowl. But being one of the broadcast teams for Westwood One, you all of a sudden you have to talk to the players on Monday. You have to go to the practices. There's and listen, I'm not complaining. I got to work the Super Bowl and call a Super Bowl, so I'm not complaining at all. But it did take up the time between that and Radio Row, where I was very jealous of you. I believe you went Thursday, and Mike went Friday, and the people he went with, and all the people you guys were hanging with, and up in the suites, and I never got to go. I saw all your Instagram pictures and was jealous, was pissed off. But again, I was saying, okay, I'm doing this for a reason, working the game. But I'm sorry I missed it because the weather. Oh, by the way, Jess, it's Tuesday. We're taping this 2 days after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
The day we're taping this and yesterday, it has been in the 40s and raining here in Arizona. So we got so lucky with the weather because it was beautiful. I know when you were out there at Waste Management, but that had to be a ball. And you were on the 16th, weren't you?
I was on the 16th. I'm glad I left town before the bad weather came in, although I was freezing most of the time. I didn't realize Arizona was cold in January and February. I probably should have looked that up first. But one thing that I thought was interesting about Waste Management, Mike, which is last year there were 2 hole-in-ones on 16, and the fans went crazy. They threw beer bottles onto the green, and it was a controversial and dividing moment for golf fans across America. Waste Management is already a loud and crazy event, like we've talked about, pretty much the opposite of every other PGA Tour event, which is reserved quiet golf claps, that sort of thing.
Not there.
This year, there were no hole-in-ones, but I was watching the players tee off on Saturday, and there were a couple shots that went really close to the hole but didn't go in. And fans were still throwing their plastic cups onto the green, and I was a little like, I don't know, guys. Can you throw? I just did a good Tony Romo impression there. Yeah. Can you throw your cup onto the green if it's not a hole-in-one? I feel like it's a little. You kind of have to save it for the big moment, right?
Completely agree. I mean, that's just people that have already had too much to drink and are just trying to get in on the fun. But it's got to be a hole-in-one. It
has to be a hole-in-one. You can't throw your drink for a birdie putt.
Yeah, so what makes it close then? If you're 2 feet away, if you're 5 feet away, if you're 10 feet away, because it's going to be the mob mentality. As soon as somebody starts throwing something, other people are going to start throwing shit. It's got to be for a hole-in-one. I agree.
I'm with you. It was the last group of the day, I'm pretty sure. So I think the fans knew they weren't getting a hole-in-one.
Yeah.
But they went crazy. And I forget whose shot it was. I probably should have looked that up. But it was maybe a foot away from the pin. It was a really nice one. But still, I'm with you. It's got to be a hole-in-one. You can't throw the this year the PGA Tour said, we're going to get cups and not throw bottles.
Instead of hoisting bottles and cans, right?
So they all threw their cups, and it was still funny. I feel bad for the people that have to clean that up because they're probably thinking like, the ball didn't even go in, guys. What are we doing here?
And the thing about it is, if you're going to throw your cup to get any distance, because an empty solo cup, just think of a red solo cup.
Yeah.
An empty, you're not throwing that far. So it has to be full of beer for you to get any kind of hoist distance to it. So now you're getting the cups all the way out there, but you're also wasting beer, which I hate. I'm not a fan of that. But, I get it. It was a smart move to go to the plastic cups. And again, I'm bummed I didn't get there. I love the event. Any of the golfers that say I don't want to go there because of that hole, stay away. Fine. If you can't have,
the crowd mercilessly boos if you hit your shot anywhere off the, even if you make it on the green, but you're
far
more
away,
than 20 feet away from the pin. I mean, it was merciless. I would not want to play there either. But all the heavy hitters were there this weekend. They all, got cheered and booed at and whatever. And Scotty Scheffler won for the second year in a row. It was very exciting. But I'm with you, Mike. I mean, guys, this is what we all have to put up with in other sports. Like, you can handle it for one hole. The rest of the course is pretty quiet.
That's exactly right, man. If you're telling me you don't like that and can't deal with it, then, I want nothing to do with you. Go have some fun on that one hole. They say, I think over 3 million people went to this. I mean, when we were there on the Tuesday, that was a practice day. And to get into the venue. So I'm glad you got to go. I'm glad Mike got to go.
Yeah, I saw fans lined up to get into the 16th green, stanchions.
Right.
And the line was all the way backed up to the entrance of the course. And I can't imagine that if you're in that line, you're having a good time. You can't see anything that's going on. And is there even a guarantee you're going to get into the seats? I don't know how any of that works. It looked like you have to be a really, really dedicated golf fan or drinker to stand in that line to make it up there.
And then they open the gates and everybody runs, right? To try it's like
you run and then some of them have to get in line.
Yeah.
And then you're not even in the seats.
It's like the day after Thanksgiving. When all the sales are going on, all the people are lined up outside the stores and they open the doors and everybody goes rushing in. I mean, it's crazy, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. So I'm glad the weather was great. I'm glad that tournament went off. It's seemingly without a hitch. And I'm glad you got to it. I'm glad Mike got to it. Now, how about parties? Did you get to any parties?
No.
None.
Mike, I was so tired every night by 8:30. I'm also on East Coast time, so I go to bed really early because we do the Le Batard show at 8 a.m. every morning. So I try to get to bed before 11 every night, which, you used to live that lifestyle.
Yes,
you know how it goes. So on Phoenix time, which is 2 hours behind, my eyes were getting heavy at 8:30 every night. And I was barely I asked Mike and Brandon, because we went to dinner. Both times we went out to dinner. The first night, I think we had a 7 o'clock reservation. I was midway through one Aperol Spritz and I was dozing off under a heat lamp. And then the second time I got a margarita and I swear to God I couldn't keep my eyes open. And that day we went out to dinner at 5.
Wow.
So that was where I was at last week in Arizona. It's
amazing because me and Chris love to go out at 5. So you're effectively a 60-year-old.
We discussed this last week. We're on the same wavelength right now, but you were Mr. Social last week. I know you were going out and about.
Well, I mean, the Thursday night cigar party, Jaworski and Jaws, is for Gridiron Greats and for Jaws Playbook, and I'm on the board for Gridiron Greats, so I've gone to that thing for years. Brian Urlacher, because Coach Ditka's obviously not doing as well now, so he doesn't travel to these events anymore. So Brian Urlacher, another former Bear and Hall of Famer, has kind of taken over for him, and he lives out here as well. So that kind of party kind of starts really Super Bowl weekend off. The Honors Awards are that night for the players, and then after the Honors Awards are over, a lot of the players come over to the cigar party. So I love that event, and because it was here, I went along with Chris, and Sydney went, and Mike went, and it was a great time. It was packed. It was the most crowded it's been, which means they raised a lot of money for Gridiron Greats and for Jaws' playbook and for all the people that he helped. So that was a great event. I didn't go to Shaq's Funhouse. I did that last year in L.A., so I feel I was at it once, so I'm good. Because that thing gets going. I mean, like crazy. And I stayed till 10:30 or 11 last year, and that was good enough for me.
Wow, look at you.
I know,
Owl.
crazy. So
That
then
is crazy.
Friday night was a very cool thing. First, Westwood One had an event for all their major sponsors. So myself and Kevin Harlan and Laura Oakman, who was on the sideline with me, and Gene Sterator was our rules official, former referee. We went to that and spoke at that and hung out. And then we all went to Kurt Warner's house. Kurt Warner has a great foundation called Treasure House that helps house like adults with global disabilities, so they have a place to stay on their own and don't have to live at home. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. But his house, I mean, just is like a compound. There's half a football field in it. There's 2 basketball courts, an indoor, outdoor. There's 3 pools. It's unbelievable.
What?
Oh yeah. The meal we had there was one of the best Chris and I have ever had. We're going, my God. And we got there late, but got there.
This is Disney movie money. This is what you get when you sell your life rights to a movie studio.
Right.
You get to have 2 basketball courts, half a football field, and a bowling alley, or whatever the hell you just said, in your house.
3 pools, an unbelievable hot tub with seats around it, a couple of outdoor kitchens. And
a couple of outdoor kitchens.
And by the way, he bought it this way during tough housing times, so he got a great deal on it. It's not like, he spent this ungodly amount of money.
Well, I'm glad he got a good deal on it.
He got a good deal on it, and all this stuff was already there. But it was a great event, great dinner, and then Blake Shelton performed.
What?
And yes. Blake Shelton.
Did he get a good deal on that too?
Well, I don't know if Blake took anything because it was a charity event to raise money. They're good friends, and there was just a couple of hundred people there. So I mean, a very intimate thing. There's Blake Shelton performing. Gwen Stefani's there, his wife. She comes up and sings a couple songs. Kane Brown. I don't know if you know of Kane Brown in the country world. Incredible voice. He's young. He's like 27, but really hitting it big. He was there. He sang. It was unreal. I mean, it was a very, very cool night.
Do you have any more parties you want to brag about to me? My main takeaway from all of this, I should have gone to the cigar party so Sid and I could have gossiped about you and your sore winner mentality playing mobile Uno. But sounds like Saturday night was the night to be hanging on to your coattails, I guess.
No, well, yeah, that was Friday night. Saturday, Chris and I actually just went to the casino, in all honesty, because Mike, the same place where the casino is, Talking Stick, that's where Shaq's Funhouse was on Thursday night, and something on Friday night. Maybe Shaq's was Friday night. Then Saturday afternoon was Gronk's party, and Mike went to Gronk's party, and then right next to the casino is a Topgolf, which I love Topgolf, and you could walk to it. And there was a Serena Williams event that Mike went to there. Mike went from Gronk's event to Serena Williams' event. So he was out. He was out probably till 1 or 1:30 every night. So he's the one to talk to about the party scene because he was hitting it all. Saturday, Chris and I just went to the casino in the afternoon and we were home early, and I went to bed early. I can't do too much of that. I can't
you did 90% more socializing than I did, and you're saying you can't do too much of it. Mike, I went to bed at 8 p.m. on Saturday night.
All right, Jess. Next year, we're going to be in Vegas. You're going to go to some of the parties, okay?
We'll see.
For sure, the cigar party, okay? Because that one's from like 8 to 10. It's like 8 to 11 or something like that. It's not that late.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I'll prepare for it all week, but I can do it.
So wait, we're going to get you to go out to some of these parties because, man, it's going to be Vegas. So, we're going to have to hit it.
I don't think anything happens before noon in Vegas anyway, so I'll at least be able to sleep in.
Always brings me back to the amazing thing of college, and everybody that's listening to this or watching this has gone through this. We all know in college you didn't go out till like 11 or so. Looking back,
which I hate.
Isn't that the truth? When you did it, you were like, okay, I mean, this is what we do. But looking back on it, how dumb is it? How great would it have been if you go out at 8 o'clock and you're done by midnight and home?
Mike, I've been saying this for years. We're all doing this wrong.
Yes.
And honestly, that's why I don't do it anymore. I like to have a nice early dinner, maybe a cocktail or two.
Yep.
Tuck me into bed by 11:30 on a Friday or Saturday. The next morning I wake up, I'm happy.
You
have
feel
my whole
good.
day ahead of me. I feel good.
Yes. Completely agree. That's why Gronk did it best. Gronk had a darty, right?
Exactly.
His thing went 1 to 7, and you could go some range in there. Mike and them got dinner right before that ended, so it's perfect. But then, like I said, he went out to Serena Williams event and stayed out till like 1 or 1:30.
I'm sure he feels great today. Yeah.
Oh, listen, dude was just because he stayed at our place here and he was hurting getting up in the morning. So everybody's partying. There was over 1,000 private planes right here at the Scottsdale airport for the most part here.
Stugotz was one of them.
Yeah, Stugotz got out with Van Pelt to go to Rutgers to watch his daughter play lacrosse, right? Or to Syracuse, right?
Syracuse.
Yeah, so this is everything that went on before the Super Bowl. And then, oh my God, there was actually a game.
What a game.
Yeah, the game started at 4:40. I was at the stadium at 11. That's the one part I really don't like is how early we have to be there because there's just a lot of downtime there. But, man, it was the one bummer I'll say, because I talked about this before, I think last week or so. I was looking forward to a lot of the stars that were going to come watch the game. You're usually on the field before the game. And they showed them, up in the booth. They showed LeBron James.
Bradley Cooper,
Paul Rudd, none of them were on the field before the game. None of them. So I was bummed. I never got to see. I know.
You only got to go to Kurt Warner's house with a private show from Blake Shelton and Gwen Stefani, but you didn't get to say hi to Paul Rudd. I feel so bad for you.
I wanted to pick with Bradley Cooper. I didn't get any of that. But let me tell you, Babyface with God Bless America and Chris Stapleton's national anthem was unbelievable. They were fantastic. I'm sure you heard them. I don't know how it played over TV.
I heard all of it. Mike, here's what I was saying to my boyfriend as the Super Bowl was starting. Because I've been lucky enough to go to 2 Super Bowls with Sports Illustrated. One was in Atlanta, one was in Miami. And the best and coolest part of being at the Super Bowl is the lead up to kickoff. Because there's so much energy and excitement in the stadium. There's always some sort of big show, some sort of video thing happening. There's introductions, and then there's Cheryl Lee Ralph, by the way. I don't know if you watch Abbott Elementary. She's like a famous Broadway star.
It looks funny, though. Yeah.
She also sang, it's very funny. She also sang the Black National Anthem before the Star Spangled Banner, and it was so good. And that stuff is always my favorite part of any event. It's just like the music, everything, everyone's all excited, and then kickoff happens. And usually there's kind of a lull afterwards, but not with this game. Yeah. Because as soon as kickoff happened,
it
both
got
offenses
going. Let's get through the entertainment part of it first. Because you saw halftime on TV, I was standing there watching it, 100 feet away, Rihanna. What did you think of the halftime show?
I loved it, but for me, it's simple. I liked all of the songs. All of the songs were hits from when I was in high school and college, and it brought me back great memories. I didn't really need anything other than that. I thought it was amazing she did it pregnant. I didn't know that while I was watching, but I kind of was like, I assumed she was because she touched her stomach right at the beginning, but I think a lot of people missed that. But I thought it was great.
Yeah, as Mike said on his show, Gojo for DraftKings, he said, if you're ever not sure if someone's pregnant and you're not, and you haven't been told they are, don't ever assume that they are. From a guy's standpoint, it's just a bad thing to do.
From any standpoint, really.
Yeah, but we knew she was pregnant. We knew that with the info we had and watching it. See, I'm a big fan of hers. I knew all the songs as well. The difference was for God Bless America and the national anthem. There wasn't a lot of music around, right? Stapleton just had the guitar, Babyface just had the guitar, and you could hear them perfectly. The music was so loud, Jess, in the stadium, you couldn't understand Rihanna a lot. You knew the songs and you knew the words because you knew the beat of it, but it was hard to understand everything. The show was great, everybody up off the air and off the ground. I mean, it was very cool looking. I think there were people a little bummed there wasn't anybody that came out, that she brought any guests or anything.
I was surprised. I thought there's so many guests that she could have brought out too, because she's done so many collaborations with other really, really big stars, but she didn't need to. She's freaking Rihanna. She can do it.
She's great. Listen,
I'm with you though. But the whole halftime show, the concert, all of it, it's made for watching it on TV.
Yes.
It's never going to be as good in person as it looks on TV. They do it all, like the final shot of her on the stage and kind of like zoomed out. Like you could see the sky cam like zooming out of frame as they were pulling it back. Like it's all made for TV. You're not going to be able to see anything from the field.
And let me say, the people behind the scenes, when halftime ends and the players are off the field, the amount of equipment that has to get put on the field for a 13-minute performance is incredible. So kudos to all that did it. Everything basically went off without a hitch. And then, Jess, we had a game that, comes out of the gate at halftime, 24-14 Eagles with a 10-point lead. You're thinking, they're controlling this game. Mahomes hurts his ankle right before halftime, and another big But that game, especially early on, because while it was a 10-point lead at half, it was close throughout, score back and forth a little bit. And you were just kind of waiting for a team to kind of take charge in this one. But, I thought it was a great game. And coming to the end of the first half, though, when Mahomes all of a sudden is limping around, there was that big, they're down 10. He's limping because he re-injured that ankle. One of the things I talked about before the game was Jalen Hurts, is he going to re-injure his shoulder? Is Mahomes going to re-injure his ankle? There's a better chance of that happening because it only took something like a guy just kind of swinging a tackle at his lower body and hitting him in the ankle, and that was it. And he's limping around. So I think there were a lot of people that thought, Philadelphia is going to take charge, and Nick Sirianni had said coming out of halftime that when we were talking to him was basically, we have a plan if Chad Henne has to come into the game. We have a plan if he's really immobilized because of this. But it turns out Patrick wasn't too immobilized from it.
So, Mike, were you able to see the shot of Mahomes on the sideline go to the bench right after he got hurt? Because when they played that on TV, he looked like he was in so much pain. I mean, he was like screaming. He put his head down on one of the trainer's shoulders, and I thought, there's no way, right? But of course, the longest halftime show ever, and halftime helps. But he came back, and you're right, like he looked fine. And I think you have to give a lot of credit to the Chiefs' offensive line because they didn't let him get sacked at all. And he had some pressure on him, and he was still able to run and escape pressure and scramble and get yards downfield on his feet even after that injury, which I thought was, I guess, a testament to how tough he is and how good he is. Listen,
everybody would try and play. It's a Super Bowl, right? And there's also those injuries that now again, this was a high ankle sprain. It's not like when you just roll your ankle, because that's a low ankle sprain. This is more of a high ankle sprain. But still, when you get those, you know how it is. There's that initial pain for like a minute or two. And I think that's what he was going through. And then maybe it calmed down some. So everyone's saying, well, did he get shot up at halftime? And what happened at halftime? Well, I'd imagine because you have extra time, he probably got an IV of maybe a cortisonal steroid or something that will keep inflammation down. And then, listen, if he took a shot, he took a shot. I mean, if he did, great. It doesn't matter to me. I took shots all day long. It would just be, you got to be real careful because luckily it was a high ankle because you don't want to put too much in there where your foot gets numb because then it's a little tougher to perform. But he came out not limping at all. And I think the biggest difference, I give them so much credit, Jess, is they came out in the second half running the ball. Isaiah Pacheco runs like a man-possessed, a rookie seventh-rounder out of Rutgers. He ran the ball well. They started controlling the ball when everybody thought that's what Philadelphia was going to do with a 10-point lead, just kind of lean on Kansas City. And it was they actually outrushed them. I mean, Kansas City actually outrushed Philadelphia, which blew my mind, and that helped them control it in the second half. And then those touchdowns, the two short touchdowns where the wide guy started motion in and then stayed on that side of the field. what incredible job by Andy Reid. I mean, I don't want to get too far into the weeds with this, but this is a film study, knowing what the defense is going to do. The defense was going to kind of be in slide and man protection, and the man who was ended up covering the motion guy already started to cross the defense thinking he was coming all the way across in motion, but he stays on that side and cuts back out and is wide open. They didn't do it once, but they did it twice. So that is a great job, and that's what Nick Sirianni. The one thing about being one of the NFL partners is I got first dibs with Nick Sirianni after the game in a room by ourselves, and that's what he said. He said, "Listen, you have to give Kansas City credit, for executing there, but you also have to go a little negative on Philadelphia for saying, wait, okay, you got beat by it once, but then you got beat by it twice." And to me, I know Mahomes got the MVP, and I get it. But I talked to right after the game when we go running on the field to interview people. I went for an O-lineman, and I ended up talking to Creed Humphrey, the center. The two best centers in the game played in this game, Jason Kelsey and Creed Humphrey. And because I said, dude, you just shut out a team from sacks that had, including playoffs, 78 or 79 sacks. How did you do that? And he was like, listen, all we heard for 2 weeks was how great that line, their defensive line was. All our defensive line heard for 2 weeks is how great the Eagles' offensive line is. So you take that personal, and you want to show out, and they did. I mean, Andrew Wiley, the right tackle, had a hell of a game against Hassan Reddick, who, including playoffs, had 19 and a half sacks. So that O-line deserves a whole lot of credit for blanking that Philadelphia defense. Now, I will say, but it was for both teams. The field, unfortunately, wasn't the greatest. Yeah. There was a lot of slipping going on. In pregame, Did
you slip on it at all?
Man, if I had tried to run it all, I certainly would have slipped. There's no doubt about it because I don't have any kind of footing at all. But C.J. Gardner-Johnson, the safety for the Eagles, I was standing right by him when he was warming up in pregame, and he backpedaled and then broke, forward. And Jess, he kicked up a divot that any golfer would be proud of.
Oof.
And I was 5 feet away from him. I saw it. He looked back and saw it. He looked at me, and we just kind of looked at each other like, oh, man, okay, that's not good. And he immediately sent somebody in to bring out another pair of cleats. And it turned guys from the Eagles and Chiefs were complaining all game long about the conditions out there. As I said on air, I said it looked like people played a round of golf and never replaced their divots. I mean, that's how chewed up the field looked. And it's a shame, But again, it was for both teams. So not one team got an advantage over the other team. Both teams had to deal with it. But I know it looked good on TV, but, man, it was chewed up pretty good. And
honestly, it didn't look very good on TV by the second half. Like, it looked pretty chewed up. And we were watching players slide all over the field the entire game. And apparently this was – the NFL knew the field in Arizona was an issue years ago, so they've been formulating this special grass for the Super Bowl, and it's like a hybrid of two different types of grass, and this was a big investment that they put into the field, and it didn't work for whatever reason. It wasn't good, and it was. I'm happy that no one slipped and tore an ACL or anything like that, but it was pretty brutal for the biggest game of the year to have one of the worst field conditions. I mean, I watch the Bears and the Steelers a lot, and those are some pretty bad fields too, so it wasn't anything new for me, but to see it during a Super Bowl game was pretty wild. Yeah,
it cost them $800,000 to do what they wanted to do with this turf, and that it doesn't seem like it was $800,000 well spent. Now, the issue is there are two stadiums that do sod like this, where you actually push the entire field out of the stadium, and then you push it into the stadium. And you know what the other field that does this is? Las Vegas, where the Super Bowl is going to be next year. So they hopefully between now and then, I think it's a matter of, because they're growing it like on this big tray or whatever, that maybe the roots don't get the set deep enough. I don't know. I know growing grass in the desert in general is tough. And I also know that, Mike, there had to have been thousands of suburban dads across America who are watching this game and thinking, I could have done better. Look at my front lawn. They got to hire me next year. I'll get this shit right. I know what I'm doing. And amazingly enough, Jess, I talked to, and I don't know if a lot of people are going to know the name when I say it, George Toma. Do you know George Toma?
He's the sod father.
The sod father. So George Toma has been in charge of the field for every single Super Bowl. He's 94 years old, and I talked to him after the game for a little while. You know why I talked to him? Because I was waiting to do my last hit. Confetti's all over the field. There's a few people moving around. He walks with a cane. He was picking up trash on the sideline.
Aww.
I mean, so I went over and just, started talking to him. He's 94. His first job of taking care of a field was when he was 13 years old. He helped a Wilkes-Barre minor league baseball team. That's how he got started into the sod and the fields, and he has done every single Super Bowl and championship games. I mean, he's worked in this field for 81 years. He's
That's
94.
Almost as long as you've been alive. That's crazy.
See, this.
What did you guys talk about though?
We talked about how he got to where he got, and that's when he talked about how kids his age when he was growing up worked right in the coal mines, but he was lucky enough to get a job like working in vegetable fields for like 50 cents a day. I mean,
a man from another era.
Yes,
surely.
The stories were unbelievable. And then at 13, he starts working on sod and how it got to the first Super Bowl when the AFL and the NFL merged. And he asked the commissioner, "What do you want on the field?" And the commissioner said, "You're the guy, man. You put on what you want." So, and he does. He has. So he I think he put AFL, NFL, and a crown on the top of it.
Oh, okay. So, like, what design do you want?
Like
Because I was thinking, he should have made the field out of, like, marshmallows or something.
Yeah, oh, God.
Paul Tagliabue was like, do whatever you want. And he's like, marshmallows. We're going to do a giant s'more.
So, his story is amazing, and he's retiring. And the first thing I said was, you're not going to pull a Brett Favre or Tom Brady and retire and come back. He's like, no. 94, he said, I am done. And but it's a shame. It's a shame that the field was part of the story. But what a great game, going down to a field goal with 11 seconds to go, which leads us to and again, the adjustments Kansas City made in the second half by running the ball more. Defensively, again, I don't want to get too much in the weeds. I don't like to be an analyst like that tries to show how smart I am about formations and all that bullshit. It's not rocket science out there. Philadelphia is a great running team, a great zone running team. And Kansas City did a great job bringing their linebackers north and south. Nick Bolton had a phenomenal game. And then they filled spots with safeties as well. I mean, that's basically how they stopped the zone running game. Like I said, I'm not going to dive any deeper in that. But they made a nice adjustment to stop the zone run on what they did. They did a really good job of it. And then basically where, I'm trying to see real quick, I'm looking of how many. There were 9 penalties in the game, and nothing bigger than that last penalty, 3rd and 8 for Kansas City. If Philadelphia stops them there, Kansas City will kick a field goal, and we figured that Philadelphia or Kansas City would kick the field goal. Philadelphia would have had about $1:30 left, no timeouts, and needed a field goal to tie, a touchdown to win. The dramatic ending everybody was looking for in this game.
Right.
And Bradbury, the cornerback for the Eagles, gets a holding call. He grabbed the jersey of the receiver, and then he hooked the hip a little bit of the receiver and got a holding call, and that gave them an automatic first down. Eagles used their timeout, so they were able to run the clock down to 11 seconds, kick the field goal, and then you had the wacky play, one try of a wacky play at the end, and it's over. What did you think when you were watching? I'm sure you're watching with your boyfriend. What did everybody think when that call was made?
I have the unpopular opinion that I didn't think it was as egregious as a lot of people watching it. It was holding. I think the problem with the officiating is that it's inconsistent at times. If you're not going to call that earlier in the game, you can't call it late in the game. Although it was still holding, you should call it. If you're going to call a jersey tug, and the Eagles player, to his credit, was like, yeah, it was a hold.
Yes, he
admitted
did.
it.
Yep, he did.
My issue is more with the lack of consistency in not calling it earlier against Juju Smith-Schuster, and then not against Juju, but Juju was a receiver earlier in the game when there was another holding that they didn't call. which did impact that play. I think the Chiefs went 3 and out on that drive. And then you're going to call it in the most pivotal moment. It bothers me that there isn't a uniform consistency there, but I thought it was still the right call. It was holding. The player admitted it was holding. He was able to kind of change his direction and stay on the receiver because he was able to keep up with him, keep the jersey, hold on to the jersey. I mean, by the book, it's holding, right?
Yeah, it is. And you're 1,000% correct about consistency, because that's all we wanted on the field. If you were going to call something in the first quarter, call it in the fourth quarter. Be consistent. Yeah. So, like this is what especially cornerbacks and defensive backs want to know during the game. How much can I get away with?
Right.
Are you going to let me be physical with these guys? If you are, then let me be physical all game. If you're going to call something, then call it all game so I know what I can get away with. Now, for James Bradberry in this play, listen, he did 2 things on it. And you wonder, and you just sit there and try. And remember, this is all bang, bang happening, right? So you see the jersey grab. The flag doesn't come out then. And you wonder if the ref, and again, this is all, instantaneous thinking is, I'm not going to call that. Okay, it was a little tug on the jersey. I'm not going to call it. But then he hooked his hip. Right. So he did 2 things. And when he hooked his hip, people were like, well, it was uncatchable. Well, if he doesn't grab his jersey and hook his hip, he may be further down the field and able to possibly catch that ball.
Well, catchable pass, correct me if I'm wrong, but that only matters if it's pass interference, right? Not holding?
Holding, that's exactly right, because people were tweeting. They were tweeting out the definition of pass interference. And I said, you people, look up defensive holding. That's the call here. It's not interference. Right. It's holding, which is completely different. And would I have rather not seen the flag thrown there? Yes. Because I agree, I thought it was a little inconsistent to what was earlier in the game. But you look at that play in a vacuum, and it was holding. And again, when you get the player, I literally was standing even with them on that play. So they're half a side of the field away, so about 20-some yards. And you could see Bradberry. He wasn't bitching. He was hoping. He was hoping that they wouldn't throw the flag because he knew he did it. And he was hoping they wouldn't throw the flag, and they did. And he didn't put up much of a fight at all. And then he said in postgame, he said, it was holding. So, and as Nick Sirianni said, and most will say, it's not one play. There are a number of plays that both teams have during a game that you could look at. Now, this just happened to be right at the end when we knew exactly what was probably going to happen from it. But there are other plays where you shouldn't even be in that position.
Exactly. If you want to point to one screw up by the Eagles instead of that one play, you can look at the punt return that set up the Chiefs field goal or Chiefs touchdown in the second half, or you can look at the weird fumble, scoop and score recovery by the Chiefs in the first half. Those were both huge mistakes by the Eagles. The other thing you can look at is the Eagles let the Chiefs score on the same exact play 2 touchdowns in a row and didn't learn. I think for Andy Reid to know that he can get away with that a second time is so sharp and so gutsy that the Eagles are going to bite, like you said, go inside, and then they're going to have a guy wide open on the outside is really smart. But those were all things. Those were all mistakes that the Eagles made that would have had a humongous impact on the outcome of the game, aside from a call that I think was a fair call to make. But again, like you said, it's just about consistency.
Yeah, and when they eventually watch that film, they're going to see that. They're going to see, and again, I'm not going to go into detail about the play because it's just too far in the weeds of the coverage that they had. But to do it twice, and kudos to KC for trying it twice and it working that easily twice. Yeah. And then Kadarius Toney, how about this guy? First round pick for the Giants, doesn't pan out, gets traded to the Chiefs and comes up with this play, which we had a right return set, but the punt was kicked left. So he actually, a lot of times if the ball is kicked away from the return, they say just get what you can get, and so be it. But it turned out he was able to reverse his field and come back around. Again, I was standing on that sideline, and just as he reversed field, I was standing there going, holy shit, he's got a wall. He has got a wall of people, and he did. So you're right. There's other plays. So I'm not going to hang my hat on that one play. at all. There were other plays in it. It turned out to be an excellent game. It turned out to be a game, too, Jess, where these two teams could easily be here next year. I mean, Jalen Hurts is going to get paid. They have one of the best teams around. Now, they do have a lot, and let me find it. They do have a lot of free agents, which is something that they're going to have to deal with. I'm looking at their free agents. Fletcher Cox is a free agent. Javon Hargrave, who had a career year as a D tackle, is a free agent. Miles Sanders, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, James Bradbury, Isaac Suomala, the guard, Marcus Epps, one of the safeties, and others. They have 20 free agents, 19 of which are unrestricted. So they have a little bit of work to do on who they want to be back. I think Hargrave should be top of line there. I think Gardner-Johnson should be top of line as well as far as guys to bring back, and Bradbury. So we'll see.
Yeah, but I think if you're an Eagles fan, that those things are all true, but you have to feel good about Jalen Hurts. This was his best game as an Eagle. He played out of his mind. He made the mistake with the fumble, obviously, but I don't think you feel any doubt with him moving forward. And having a quarterback in this league's, obviously the most important position to nail. So good for him, I guess. Good for them. I think if they had won, he would have been the MVP for sure in that game. So a huge bummer, but on the other side, you have Pat Mahomes, who's now won 2 Super Bowls. He's only 27 years old. This was, I think, a bit of a legacy maker for him, too, which is crazy to say for someone who's not even 30 yet. But joining the club of quarterbacks who have won 2 Super Bowls before you turn 28, it's a pretty big accomplishment.
First on Hurts, you're exactly right. And I asked Nick, I said, listen, it's a bittersweet thing, but the play of Jalen Hurts, and he just went on and on about what he did from running the ball, forgetting even the fact that nobody can stop that quarterback sneak that they do, which is unbelievable, where they just shove him across the line. He had the best pass of the night. That 17-yard out route to Dallas Goedert in basically double coverage, where it was just over the fingertips of one defender and high enough for Goddard to go get, was the best pass of the night between both quarterbacks. It was incredible. So, yeah, he had a monster game. Obviously a big mistake in dropping the ball and Bolton picking it up for KC. But, yeah, I think they are solid there. What will happen with their O-line? Is Jason Kelce going to retire? That's why Suomala, the right guard, is probably a key guy to get back. They have a guy in Cam Jurgens who they brought in for center, but I wonder if Landon Dickerson, who played center at Alabama and guard and is playing left guard, would move to center. So we'll see if Kelce retires or not, but I like where they are. You have to like where Kansas City is. And then what you said about Mahomes is right. Again, I was riding back after the game with Kurt Warner, and Kurt's like, this guy has accomplished all this. He's 27. Kurt said, I didn't make my first start in the NFL until I was 28. And he goes, he has accomplished all this. Because we were saying, if, say, for some reason, Pat Mahomes says, you know what, I'm going to retire, he's still a walk-in Hall of Famer.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, even Kurt Warner said, if I'm in the Hall of Fame, that guy walks in right now with what he's done. His accomplishments are ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, that is true. Sorry, my dog just came and started nibbling
that's okay.
me.
No problem.
That is definitely true. I think it's also that this is happening in a quote unquote rebuilding year, which a lot of people were calling this for the Chiefs. We were looking at, the Chiefs schedule at the beginning of the season, the AFC West is going to be so challenging. We've got Russell Wilson now on the Broncos and Justin Herbert and Derek Carr. This is going to be such a tough year for the Chiefs. And they got rid of Tyreek Hill. How are they going to replace him? They don't have any wide receivers. Yeah. And it was they had great odds at the beginning of the season to win the Super Bowl. Don't get me wrong. But I think there were a lot of doubts in people's minds that this would be a year for them to make it back there.
Right.
And it was. They had to go through, Joe Burrow and the Bengals to get there. And they did, and they won, and you can't take anything away from them there. It's a little bit of a, kind of a funny thing, because after the game, Travis Kelce, yelled into the camera no one believed in us, and there were a lot of eye rolls because a lot of people believed in you guys. But I think you can say going into the Super Bowl, Mike, not a lot of people picked the Chiefs to win it against the Eagles. I did, and I felt like I got a little side eye from you when I did that. So
I thought Philly was going to win the game.
Pat myself on the back for that.
There you go.
Pat Mahomes myself on the back. Yeah,
you pat yourself on the back a lot, don't you? For God's
I do. I mean, I picked them in the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl.
You did?
You didn't believe in them, and I did.
I picked Cincinnati, and then I picked Philadelphia, so I did not get that one right. And listen, Travis Kelce's saying that, listen, players find anything they can for motivation to put a chip on their shoulder. Brady's done it for 23 years. When they were the best team in football, still trying to find something that makes it sound like, I'm coming after you for this. So congrats to them. A couple other things before we head out of here. I just talked about the Eagles, what players they're going to bring back. They also have to replace both their coordinators now. So we've had all the head coaches now hired in this cycle, and both coordinators. First, the offensive coordinator, Shane Steichen for the Eagles. He's the new head coach of the Colts. And the last slot filled was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles, Jonathan Gannon, was signed by the Arizona Cardinals to be their head coach. So you have those two guys. Houston signed DeMeco Ryans, who was the D coordinator in San Francisco. Denver, of course, Sean Payton signed there. And in Carolina, they signed Frank Reich, who had been the head coach with the Indianapolis Colts. So the Eagles Nick Sirianni is now replacing his coordinators. Will he do that from within? Will he bring them from the outside? So we'll have to wait and see about that. We have the whole, because, NFL is year-round, Jess. We have the whole quarterback carousel. First, though, while we're in the midst of taping this, Aaron Rodgers has started his 4-day darkness thing. So for those that don't know, he's going somewhere where he's living and just going. He gets one meal a day, and he is in complete darkness for 4 days. And it's supposed to enlighten you. As I told anybody who asked me on Radio Row, I said all that would do for me is give me a good day, 4 days of sleep. Because I'm an inch deep. I'm an inch deep and a mile wide. I'm not looking to be enlightened, and I don't think anything would come of it. But that's what he's doing. Could you or would you do something like that? And do you think it would do anything?
Look, I am all for people doing whatever they need to do to go on whatever spiritual journey they need to, but I would never personally want to do this 4-day light deprivation chamber thing. That sounds like I would come out on the other side a way more depressed and anxious person. But look, man, do whatever you want to do. Like, that's great. It just sounds like really horrible. And just like, Mike, when I moved to Miami, one of my favorite things about it was I get to wake up every day and see the sunshine. If I were him, that's all I would need. But again, everyone's different. Do your thing. I mean, give me 4 days on a beach and I'll make whatever decision I need to make at the end of that. That's all I really need. Give me pina colada. We're happy.
I'm with you. Listen, if it's going to help you, cool. As long as nobody's getting hurt and anything, fine. Do what you feel you have to do. I think the thing that would piss me off the most is one meal a day. Unless unless the one meal is an all-you-can-eat buffet,
Right. I don't think you'd be able to sleep for 4 days if you're hungry for half of it. I think you would have you would be sitting there just grumbling to yourself about not having enough food.
That door would open on the 4th day, and I would be so pissed off. How would it feel? Leave me alone. I need something to eat. I'm hungry. It didn't do shit for me.
Yeah, I don't think that would work for me either.
Yeah, and so that's one of the things we'll keep an eye on in the offseason, not the 4-day.
What will happen sooner, Mike? Aaron Rodgers leaves the light deprivation chamber, or Notre Dame hires a new offensive coordinator?
Wow. I mean, they just were dealing with Ludwig from Utah, and Ludwig is – I think he was the highest paid assistant in the country last year at about $2 million a year. And the report was Notre Dame wouldn't pay the buyout. Whether that's true or not, that's the report out there. So, yeah, and then along with the OC looking for that, again, we have to get some Notre Dame talk in. Their great O-line coach that came back for a year, Harry Easton, retired.
Yeah.
And I think that my personal opinion, that had a lot to do with Tommy leaving. I think he came back because he gets along very well with Tommy. They have a great relationship, and now that has to change and such. So that's a shame. I'm really hoping that, and I know Chris Watt, who was actually an O-lineman with Mike at Notre Dame when Mike was there, and Zach Martin, and some of the great linemen that were there, like Zach. Chris had been in Tulane as an O-line coach, and then he came to Notre Dame to work under Harry. So I know he's getting interviewed. I hope he gets the job, but that's losing your OC and losing that great of an O-line coach. That's tough. Sam Hartman, who transferred in, has to be going, Oh, shit. Wait a minute. I came here and the guy that builds the guys in front of me is gone and the guy who's calling the plays is gone. So it'll be interesting where ND fills this.
On the bright side, there's still a lot of good candidates out there, but that's definitely a weird one. I feel like we're on a bit of a Pope watch right now. Like there's going to be white smoke that comes out of the Golden Dome when we finally have a staff for next season. But yeah, definitely a weird time of year to be doing it too. Like we're already on, March Madness is in a few weeks, and you'd like to have the coaches sorted out, but we'll see what happens, Mike. Before we go, the Chiefs are plus 600 next season to win the Super Bowl. So
I mean, we're not shocked at that, right? They should be the favorites.
Yeah.
What I was surprised at is Philadelphia, I think, is basically tied for fourth. It's the Chiefs at plus 600, the Bills plus 700, the 49ers plus 800, and then it's the Bengals and the Eagles at plus 900. So the 49ers who don't have a quarterback right now. That's the odd thing to me. They don't have a quarterback yet, and their odds are a little bit better than Philadelphia's.
Does it matter for the 49ers? What shocks me is that the Jets have way better odds than the Steelers, and the Steelers actually do have a quarterback. So I'm annoyed with this now.
The Jets are. So that's tied for fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. So they're eighth. Plus 2,800. I didn't see where are the Steelers. Oh, plus 5,500. Wow. The lowest odds, if anybody wants to know, the Texans and the Cardinals are tied at plus 20,000. So good luck there. Obviously, it's NFL year round. We'll talk, obviously, the quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson, Derek Carr, Garoppolo, and all that stuff. Free agency coming. The combine coming up this month as well. And as Jess mentioned, we have the NCAA tournament coming up, March Madness. NBA, really, now we're going for after the trade deadline and KD going to the Suns. All of a sudden, they jumped up as the second favorite now. So a lot to talk about. Football will always be there, but we'll start to incorporate some more. When does Formula One start again?
Couple weeks we'll be
back
and it'll be back in March. I think
it will.
The new season of Drive to Survive comes out in like 10 days or something like that. So
that's awesome. And
it's
also
back soon.
And also the PGA's coming out with their own version, right? I forgot what they're calling it.
Drive something. Drive. It should be called Drive to Survive.
Drive the Fairway or something.
They should both be called Drive to Survive.
That's true. That is true.
I like my own idea. I'm gonna go pitch that to a studio executive somewhere.
Well done.
All
right. So we
Mike,
did it. We made it through a football
great.
season.
It was great to see you last week, and congrats on getting to call the big game. Congrats on making it through NFL season, too.
I thank you, Jess, and I enjoyed all our pods through the football season. And next year, remember, you will be hitting some of the parties in Vegas.
We'll see.
That sounds really odd that at that point I'll be 61 and a 61-year-old is going to take a 28-year-old out to the – you're going out to the parties, young lady. Get out there and have fun.
Well, Mike, we should tell our audience we're taking a break next week. We're going to do a little – rest and recuperation. Maybe we'll enter a sensory deprivation chamber for the next week. At least our podcast will, and then we'll be back after that. And can't wait.
Can't wait. Looking forward to it. I will not go sensory deprivation. I am, like I said, I'm going all you can eat buffets, and I'll wait for you to send me some goodies.
All right, sounds good.